More than 14 million people in the UK are living in poverty right now. That's 1 in every 5 citizens. And nearly 5 million of them are children. Let that sink in. This is happening in 2025 in one of the world's richest nations. It doesn't make sense, right? We've got billion-pound tech companies, record-breaking profits, luxury flats popping up everywhere. Yet millions are skipping meals, rationing electricity, and choosing between heating and eating. What's going on? The government says the economy is growing. The headlines tell us unemployment is low. But if that's true, why are food banks running out of stock? Why are working people sleeping in their cars? Why are nurses and teachers needing second jobs just to survive? There's a darker side of the UK that no one wants to talk about. A silent crisis that's getting worse by the day. In this video, we're uncovering 10 shocking reasons behind the rise in poverty that most people don't know about. These aren't just statistics. These are the hidden forces tearing through our society while the media stays silent. If you think you know what's causing poverty in the UK, you might want to think again. Stay until the end, because what you're about to hear will change how you see this country. Number 1. The gig economy trap. Imagine working 3 jobs and still not making enough to cover your bills. That's the brutal reality for millions in the UK caught in the gig economy trap. On the surface, gig work sounds flexible. No fixed hours, no boss breathing down your neck. But behind that freedom is a system that offers zero stability, zero benefits, and zero protection. Drivers, delivery workers, cleaners, freelancers, they're technically self-employed, which means no sick pay, no holiday pay, no guaranteed income, and absolutely no job security. And it's spreading fast. A 2025 report found that nearly 1 in 7 workers in the UK are now in gig or zero-hour jobs. Most earn less than the legal minimum wage once you factor in travel, waiting time, and out-of-pocket costs like fuel and maintenance. It's modern-day hustle culture, turned full-time survival mode. Many enter gig work hoping it'll be temporary, a stepping stone to something better. But the longer they stay, the harder it is to leave. No stable income means you can't qualify for a mortgage, get decent housing, or even plan your next month. Even worse, gig workers are often penalized by benefit systems because their fluctuating earnings are hard to track. And while workers juggle unpredictable hours and constant stress, the corporations behind these platforms rake in record profits. They've designed a system where risk is pushed entirely onto the worker. One glitch in the app, one bad rating, and your income disappears. This isn't just an economic model. It's a poverty machine, wrapped in glossy branding and fake empowerment. So the next time someone blames the poor for their choices, ask them this: how do you climb out when the ladder is missing rungs? And this is just the beginning. Number 2. Rent inflation and the housing crisis. Think having a full-time job means you can afford a decent place to live? Think again. In 2025, the average rent in the UK has skyrocketed to over 40% of a person's income. In cities like London, it's closer to 60%. And for many, that's before bills, transport, or food. This isn't just expensive, it's unsustainable. People are being priced out of their own neighborhoods. Families are crammed into single rooms. Young adults are stuck living with parents well into their 30s. Even professionals, nurses, teachers, civil servants, can't afford to live near their jobs. And owning a home? That's become a distant dream for most. House prices continue to rise, deposits are nearly impossible to save, and mortgage lenders are tightening access like never before. But here's the real punch. There are over 260,000 empty homes in the UK right now. That's enough to house every homeless person 5 times over. So why aren't they being used? Because housing isn't about shelter anymore. It's about profit. Landlords and developers hold on to properties to inflate prices while people freeze in temporary accommodations or sleep in their cars. Renting doesn't come with stability either. Evictions are rising. Contracts are short-term. And with zero rent caps in most areas, landlords can hike prices whenever they want. It's not a housing crisis, it's a housing scam. Have you or someone you know struggled with rent or housing in the UK? Share your story in the comments. Let's make these hidden struggles visible. And if you're finding this video eye-opening, don't forget to subscribe for more content that exposes what others won't. Next, we uncover how the very system meant to support the vulnerable is failing when it's needed most. Number 3. Welfare is not what it used to be. Once upon a time, the UK's welfare system was seen as a safety net, something to catch you when life knocked you down. But in 2025, that net is full of holes. Universal credit, delays, sanctions, confusing forms. It's become a labyrinth. People who desperately need help often find themselves trapped in bureaucracy, bouncing between phone calls, online portals, and automated replies. Imagine losing your job and applying for support, only to wait 5 weeks for your first payment. That's 5 weeks with no income, no rent money, no food budget, no power to keep the lights on. And if you make a mistake on your application, the penalties are instant, but the corrections can take months. Behind every statistic is a real person. A single mother who skipped meals so her kids could eat. A disabled man sanctioned because he missed an appointment while in hospital. A student turned away because their part-time hours disqualify them. This isn't just red tape, it's a design flaw. Because when a system makes it easier to give up than to fight, it stops being support. It becomes punishment. And while ministers boast about budget cuts and efficiency, real people are falling through the cracks. Hard-working people, sick people, people who never imagined they'd need help. The welfare system is supposed to offer hope. Today, it offers stress, shame, and silence. And here's the terrifying part. Many people are one paycheck away from needing it. So what happens when your safety net disappears? Number 4. Energy bills are eating us alive. Winter 2025 wasn't just cold. It was brutal. Not because of the weather, but because of the choices millions had to make. Heat or eat. For many households across the UK, energy bills have become the most feared envelope through the letterbox. The prices don't make sense anymore. People are paying hundreds of pounds a month just to keep a small flat warm. Some are cutting back to one hot meal a day just to afford a few extra hours of heating. And then the guilt creeps in. Parents telling their kids to wear extra layers indoors. Pensioners sitting still in the cold because moving might mean more electricity use. It's not just discomfort, it's dangerous. Cold homes contribute to nearly 10,000 excess deaths every winter in the UK. And the shocking part? Most of them are preventable. Why are we here? Because energy companies, despite massive subsidies and record profits, continue to raise rates. Meanwhile, government aid is shrinking, price caps are temporary, patchy, and often arrive too late to make a difference. Fuel poverty used to be a rare term. Now it's a national epidemic. Smart meters flash red warnings. Prepaid meters cut off mid-shower. Late payment letters pile up like threats. And through it all, the lights stay on in corporate boardrooms. This isn't just a crisis, it's a quiet war on the poor, waged through radiators, cookers, and kettles. And it's not getting better. Because when basic utilities become luxury expenses, the question isn't whether people are struggling, it's how many are silently drowning in debt. Number 5. Food insecurity in a rich nation. It sounds unbelievable, but in 2025, Britain is running on food banks. Not just the unemployed or the homeless. Nurses, delivery drivers, care workers, people with jobs, people with kids, people who never thought they'd be here. They're now regulars in donation lines. How did we get to a point where one of the wealthiest nations in the world can't guarantee food on the table? In the last 12 months alone, food bank use has surged by over 40%. Shelves are often empty before the weekends. Volunteers are exhausted. Some centers have started turning people away, not because they want to, but because there's nothing left to give. Meanwhile, supermarkets report record revenue. Food prices are up, profits are up, but wages aren't. The price of basics, milk, bread, pasta, has nearly doubled in just 2 years. Government support barely covers half the monthly grocery bill. And it's not just about physical hunger. The emotional toll is just as devastating. Parents skipping meals, children arriving at school without breakfast, Teenagers hiding empty lunchboxes to avoid embarrassment. It's hard to focus on anything when your stomach growls louder than your thoughts. This isn't a temporary glitch, it's a structural failure. Because if hardworking people are relying on donations to survive, then something is deeply broken. The safety net has turned into a food parcel. And that's not dignity. That's desperation, wrapped in tin foil. When a country feeds its billionaires but not its children, that's not success. That's shame. Number 6. The education and skills gap that locks in poverty. In the UK, education is supposed to be the great equalizer, the path to opportunity. But in 2025, it's more like a postcode lottery. The quality of education a child receives still depends heavily on where they live, how much their parents earn, and how well-funded their local school is. And the gap isn't closing, it's widening. Public schools in wealthier areas are thriving. Smaller classes, better resources, extracurricular support. Meanwhile, schools in low-income communities are underfunded, understaffed, and overwhelmed. That difference starts early. Children from disadvantaged backgrounds fall behind before they even reach age 5. And once the gap opens, the system rarely helps them catch up. But it doesn't stop at childhood. For adults, retraining or gaining new qualifications is supposed to be the ladder out of low-paying jobs. Except that ladder is often broken. Courses are too expensive, grants are limited, and if you're working long hours just to survive, when exactly are you supposed to study? The result? An entire generation stuck in low-skill, low-wage employment, not because they lack ambition, but because they lack access. This is how poverty becomes generational. We tell people to just get a better job, but never ask whether the system actually gives them a fair shot. And in many cases, it doesn't. Education should be a launch pad. Right now, it's more like a barrier wall, with the gate locked unless you already have the key. And while the privileged climb faster, the rest are left behind, not due to laziness or lack of will, but because society decided their future mattered less. Number 7. Corporate greed versus worker pay. Something doesn't add up. In 2025, UK corporations are boasting record profits, CEO bonuses are hitting 7-figure highs, and shareholder dividends are flowing like champagne. Meanwhile, the workers keeping those companies alive? They're barely scraping by. The gap between executive pay and average worker wages is now wider than it's ever been. In some companies, CEOs earn more by lunchtime on Monday than their lowest-paid employees make all year. We're told the economy is recovering. But recovery for who? Workers are doing longer hours, taking on more responsibilities, and still seeing their real wages shrink thanks to inflation. Pensions are being slashed. Overtime pay is disappearing, and performance bonuses are increasingly just a myth. Here's the brutal truth. Wealth isn't disappearing. It's being redistributed upward. And it's not by accident. It's by design. Tax loopholes, offshore accounts, stock buybacks. These aren't side effects of capitalism. They're the main strategy now. While workers are being told to tighten their belts, the top 1% are flying private, buying second homes, and investing in luxury bunkers. The narrative keeps spinning. If you work hard, you'll make it. But the rules are rigged, and for millions of people, hard work is no longer enough. It's not that we're running out of wealth, we're running out of fairness. And yet, when workers strike or demand better pay, they're labeled entitled, while billionaires hoard more than entire communities combined without scrutiny. The real question isn't whether poverty is rising, it's who benefits when it does. Number 8. Mental health and financial stress. There's a side of poverty that's harder to see, but just as devastating. It's the anxiety that hits when your rent is due and your bank balance is nearly zero. It's the guilt of not being able to afford your child's school trip. The constant calculations in your head, how much you can stretch a tenner, which bill can wait just one more week. This is the invisible weight that millions in the UK carry every single day. And it's affecting mental health on a massive scale. In 2025, rates of anxiety, depression, and stress-related illness are at an all-time high. And the link to financial hardship is undeniable. According to recent studies, people living in poverty are twice as likely to experience mental health issues and far less likely to get the help they need. Because therapy costs money. Time off work costs money. Even asking for help feels like a luxury when survival is the only priority. And the stigma? It's crushing. We tell people to talk about their struggles, but we shame them the moment they do. We say mental health matters, but our systems still treat it like an afterthought, especially for the poor. For many, poverty doesn't just break the bank, it breaks the mind. And here's the worst part. This pain is often silent. You won't always see it in someone's face or hear it in their voice. But it's there, in the sleepless nights, the quiet breakdowns, the empty eyes. Mental health is not separate from poverty. It's woven into it. Because when life becomes a constant fight just to stay afloat, your spirit starts to sink with it. Number 9. The crushing cost of childcare. Raising a child is supposed to be one of life's greatest joys, but in the UK today, it's also one of the fastest routes into poverty. In 2025, the average cost of full-time childcare for one child under age 2 is over £14,000 per year. That's more than many families pay in rent. And if you have more than one child, the numbers become downright impossible. It's no wonder thousands of parents, mostly mothers, are being pushed out of the workforce altogether. Because when your paycheck barely covers the childcare bill, what's the point? This isn't just a personal struggle. It's an economic disaster. Talented, skilled workers are being forced to choose between career or care. Families are putting off having children altogether. And those who do have kids? They're burning out, juggling night shifts, split schedules, and constant guilt. It doesn't help that support is threadbare. The so-called free hours often don't align with actual working patterns. Vouchers are hard to qualify for. Waiting lists stretch for months. And flexible childcare? A rare luxury. But let's be clear. This isn't about parents wanting a break. This is about survival. About being able to earn a living without sacrificing your child's well-being. We love to talk about supporting working families. But what kind of support forces people to work just to pay someone else to watch their kids? It's a cruel cycle. You work to afford care. You need care to work. And somehow, you're still broke. This system doesn't support parents. It punishes them. And until that changes, poverty will keep passing from one generation to the next, starting in the nursery. Number 10. Hidden homelessness. The ones you don't see. When we think of homelessness, we often picture someone sleeping rough on the street. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. In 2025, the UK's homelessness crisis is far bigger and more invisible than most people realize. For every person you see in a doorway, there are dozens more you'll never notice. They're sleeping on friends' sofas, rotating through spare rooms, living in cars, hostels, temporary shelters, even abandoned buildings. These people are the hidden homeless, and they're everywhere. Recent estimates suggest over 270,000 people in the UK are currently homeless, but less than a quarter are actually on the streets. Some are entire families, split up by councils due to a lack of space. Others are young people kicked out at 18, unable to afford rent or secure a deposit. Many are working adults, holding down jobs while sleeping in unsafe conditions. The system doesn't recognize them. They don't always count in the statistics, and because they're not on the pavement, their suffering is easier to ignore. But make no mistake, this isn't freedom, it's limbo. With no address, you can't register with a GP, apply for benefits, get a job, open a bank account. You're stuck. And temporary accommodation? Often moldy, overcrowded, and unsafe. Some people spend years moving from one emergency housing unit to the next. It's not just about lack of shelter, it's about lack of security, dignity, and hope. Homelessness in the UK isn't always visible, but it's always growing. And if we don't talk about the hidden stories, they stay forgotten. If any part of this hit close to home, tell us. What's your story? We read every comment, and your voice matters here. Check out our last video for more truth the media won't touch. We pour our hearts into every frame to bring you the facts they hide. All we ask is one click. Subscribe, support the movement, and help us keep telling the stories that deserve to be heard.